All right, let's talk about something that, let's be honest, most of us try not to think about: the American retirement system. I mean, it just feels huge, complicated, and maybe a little scary. Over the years, it's turned into this giant, sprawling labyrinth. And if you feel like you're trying to find your way through it without a map, you are definitely not alone. So my goal today is simple. I want to give you that map, a clear guide to really see the landscape, spot the pitfalls, and hopefully find your way through with a lot more confidence.
To really get where we are today, we kind of have to look back at where we came from. Some of you might remember this, the old bank passbook. Maybe your parents or grandparents had one tucked away in a desk drawer. Every single deposit, every withdrawal was printed right there in these neat little columns. It was so simple, you could hold it in your hand. And it gave us something that we have totally lost in today's financial world. Just absolute clarity. You knew exactly what you had, no questions asked.
Okay, now let's jump to today. You've got a 401k, maybe an IRA, a brokerage account. You can log in on your phone and see a number. But do you really know what you have? And I don't just mean the balance at the top of the screen. I mean, do you know down to the dollar how much you are paying in fees every single year? Do you know the exact date the government is going to force you to start taking money out, whether you need it or not? And do you know about the hidden risks that can completely wreck your plan, even if your investments seem to do okay? If you paused on any of those, then this is for you.
Okay, so let's get into it. The system is a mess, but our journey through it is going to be clear. Here's our roadmap. First, we'll figure out how we lost that simple clarity in the first place. Then, we're going to dissect the 401k, the absolute bedrock of modern retirement, and I'll tell you its crazy origin story. We'll unpack the government's hidden rules and tax traps. Then we'll expose some of those silent risks that can sabotage your savings. We'll look at the wider financial world, all the other confusing products out there. And then, the most important part, we'll lay out a clear path for how you can get that clarity and control back.
So, seriously, how did we end up here? Well, for the vast majority of people, their entire retirement plan, the thing that's supposed to support them for 30 years, wasn't based on some deep financial plan. Nope, it was based on a form someone in HR gave them on their first day at a new job, maybe 20 years ago. They were told, hey, check this box to contribute and maybe pick one of these 3 funds. And that one little checkmark, made decades ago, set the entire financial structure for the rest of their lives, and most of us never gave it a second thought.
Now, let's talk about the main event, the 401k. It is by far the most common retirement account in America, holding trillions and trillions of dollars. But here's the thing that almost nobody knows. It was never, ever designed to be the main retirement plan for everyday people. It actually started back in 1978 as this obscure little tax loophole, basically a special perk for high-paid executives to put away some extra cash. It was never meant to replace pensions for the entire country. In fact, even the guy who's often called the father of the 401k, a man named Ted Benna, he later called his own creation a monster. So why a monster? Well, because it started a revolution that completely shifted the massive responsibility and all of the risk of saving for retirement away from companies, with their professional pension managers, and put it directly onto the shoulders of everyday people. People who, let's face it, didn't have the time, the training, or the tools to manage it properly.
And built into that new system is an incredible amount of complexity, starting with what is probably the single most important number in your entire plan that you've probably never even heard of, the expense ratio. It's buried deep in those long, boring documents. It's the yearly fee that the fund charges to manage your money. It's just a percentage, and it always looks so small, maybe 1%, maybe 1.5%. It seems totally insignificant, but over time, that tiny number is one of the most powerful wealth-destroying forces there is.
Let's just do the math. Let's say you have $200,000 in your 401k, and for the next 20 years, it grows at an average of 6% a year. If you're in a low-cost fund with an expense ratio of just 0.1%, you'd end up with about $620,000. Pretty good. Now, let's take the exact same account, same money, same growth, but this time with a 1.5% fee, which is super common. What's your final balance? About $450,000.
Let that number just sit there for a second. $170,000. That's the difference. And this isn't money you lost because you picked a bad stock or the market crashed. No, this is money that just vanished. It was transferred quietly from your account to the fund company because the silent gears of those fees were just grinding away day after day, year after year, while you probably had no idea it was even happening. And here's the sneakiest part of all. This fee is totally invisible. You will never see a line on your statement that says management fee. You won't see a charge for it. The expense ratio is taken directly out of your investment returns before they ever hit your account. So it's not a deduction from your balance, it's a reduction of your growth.
It is a silent, constant leak in your financial future.
All right, now for the next layer of this maze, the government's rules. So when you put money into a traditional 401k or an IRA, the deal seems pretty straightforward, right? You get a tax break today, and you promise to pay the taxes on that money later when you take it out in retirement. But there's a huge catch in that deal, and it can be unbelievably expensive if you don't see it coming.
See, the government won't let you put off paying those taxes forever. They want their cut. So at a certain age, right now at 73, they step in and say, okay, time's up, pay us. This is called a required minimum distribution, or an RMD. The IRS literally has a formula that tells you the minimum amount of money you have to withdraw from your account every single year, and you pay income tax on every dollar. It doesn't matter one bit if you actually need the money or not. It's mandatory.
And this is where a crazy domino effect can start. That forced withdrawal, let's say it's $50,000, well, that gets added to all your other income for the year. That alone can be enough to push you into a higher tax bracket. But wait, there's more. That extra income can then make more of your Social Security benefits taxable, up to 85% of them. And on top of that, it can trigger something called IRMA, which can make your monthly Medicare premiums shoot way up. All of a sudden, that one required withdrawal is costing you way, way more than you thought.
This all boils down to that fundamental choice you have to make, traditional or Roth. And what the financial world often simplifies is that it's really just a bet. It's a gamble on the future. With a traditional account, you're betting that your tax rate will be lower in retirement. With a Roth, where you pay the taxes up front, you're betting your tax rate will be higher in the future. The problem? Nobody knows. No one has a crystal ball to see what tax rates will be in 20 or 30 years. You're being forced to make this huge, life-altering decision with totally incomplete information.
Okay, I want to talk about a risk now that is so weirdly counterintuitive that it catches so many new retirees completely by surprise. It's a danger that proves that the average return of your investments, the number we all obsess over, can be completely misleading once you actually start taking money out.
It's called sequence of returns risk. Now, when you're working and saving for years, the order of good and bad market years, it doesn't really matter all that much. A bad year is just a chance to buy stuff on sale. But the moment you retire and start withdrawing money to live on, the specific order, the sequence of those returns becomes one of the most critical things for your financial survival.
Let me tell you a story about two retirees. We'll call them Robert and Patricia. They both retire with the exact same amount of money. They invest in the exact same things, they take out the exact same amount of money every year to live on, and over 20 years, their investments get the exact same average return. The only difference? Robert has good market years at the beginning of his retirement. Patricia has bad market years at the beginning of hers. The result, as you can see, is just devastating for Patricia. She ends up with way less money and is in real danger of running out.
I mean, think about that. Same investments, same average return, totally wildly different results. Here's why it's so destructive. When the market tanks right after you retire, you are forced to sell way more of your shares at rock-bottom prices just to get the cash you need to pay your bills. You're locking in your losses at the absolute worst possible time. That money is gone forever. It can't bounce back when the market recovers. It's a permanent dent in your nest egg that you can never fix.
All of this should make us just stop and think about something fundamental. The 401k was created in 1978. The internet didn't exist. Computers weren't trading stocks in microseconds. The whole global economy was a completely different beast. The basic rules and products that control your financial future, they were written for a world that, for all practical purposes, has completely vanished. So let's zoom out a little bit on our map of this labyrinth, because the confusion doesn't just stop with 401ks and IRAs. Oh no, the financial industry has created this whole ecosystem of other products and problems that add even more twists and turns, making it even harder for a normal person to navigate.
Let's talk about annuities for a second. The promise sounds incredible, right? You give an insurance company a chunk of your savings, and they promise you a paycheck for the rest of your life. The problem isn't the idea, it's how they're sold. Annuities often have some of the highest, most hidden fees in the entire financial universe. If you want your money back early, you could pay a surrender charge of 10% or more. And the contracts? They can be over 100 pages of dense legal gobbledygook that's basically designed so you can't understand it. The real question is, what is that guarantee actually costing you? And here's another super common trap that happens just from having a normal career. You change jobs every few years. And each time you start a new 401k, but you just leave the old ones behind. So after 30 years, you retire with this mess of 3, 4, maybe 5 different accounts all over the place.
There's no single strategy, you might be taking on huge risks you don't even know about, and you are almost definitely paying extra administrative fees you don't need to be paying. It's a portfolio built by accident, not by design.
And this gets right to the core of why this labyrinth is so hard to navigate. I mean, think about it. How do most of us learn about this stuff? It's not in a classroom. It's usually from the person who is trying to sell us the product. It's from someone whose paycheck depends on which box you check. That is a massive conflict of interest. It means the education you're getting is always going to be tilted towards whatever is most profitable for them, not necessarily what's best for you.
Now, before we get to the good stuff, the solutions, I want to point out one tool that is incredibly powerful but gets totally overlooked, probably because it doesn't make the big firms a ton of money. It's the Health Savings Account, or HSA. This thing is like a financial superpower. It has a triple tax advantage that nothing else has. Your contributions are tax-deductible, the money grows completely tax-free, and your withdrawals are tax-free for any medical expenses. It is an amazing retirement tool hiding in plain sight. Okay, we have spent a lot of time wandering through this labyrinth. We've pointed out the dead ends, the hidden traps, the confusing signs, but just knowing the problems, that just creates anxiety. So now let's talk about the way out. It is time to switch from problems to a clear, simple, actionable plan to take back control of your financial life.
And listen, the very first and most important thing to get is this. The goal here is not to turn you into some kind of Wall Street genius. You don't have to start reading financial reports for fun. The goal is to empower you with the right questions. Just the simple act of knowing what to ask and knowing that you deserve a clear answer, that alone puts you in a position of power that most people never ever get to.
So here it is, your action plan. 3 simple steps. Number 1, conduct a fee audit. I want you to gather up the statements for every single retirement and investment account you have, and you're going to find out exactly what you're paying in fees. Call the company if you have to. They are required by law to tell you. Number 2, get a second opinion. Find a fee-only financial planner. That's someone who gets paid a flat fee for their time, not commissions for selling you stuff. Pay for an hour of their time to look over your situation. And third, talk with your family. We have to break this weird taboo about not discussing money. Keeping it a secret is how so many of these costly mistakes happen.
And I want to leave you with one final thought. If any of this felt overwhelming, or if it made you feel like you messed up somewhere along the way, please understand this. The problem isn't what you did. You did the hard part. You went to work, you saved your money, you made sacrifices. The problem is that the system just silently got more and more complicated around you, and nobody ever gave you the new instruction manual. This is not your fault.
Remember that simple little passbook from the beginning? The one that felt so clear and simple? Well, that feeling doesn't have to be some old, distant memory. It can be your goal. Look, the point isn't to go back to a simpler time. That world is gone. The point is to reclaim that feeling of clarity, that feeling of knowing exactly what you have, where it is, how much it's costing you, and how it's all working together to serve you.
You have spent decades of your life, thousands and thousands of hours, working, saving, and building this thing. The really hard part, the saving part, is done. Now it's time for the last, most crucial step. You built it. So what's your plan to actually understand it, to protect it, and to make it work for you? Asking that question, that is the first step out of the labyrinth.